I'm Nailah Taman, an Egyptian American visual artist and producer of Mizna's Twin Cities Arab Film Fest. We are very excited to feature Hala Elkoussy's film East of Noon as our closing night program this year. And I'm very excited to welcome via Zoom from Cairo, Hala Elkoussy, the director of East of Noon. Welcome, Hala.
Welcome, Naila, and welcome everybody. I'm very pleased to be here with you, even if via Zoom. Um, and I hope you enjoy watching my film.
Yes, yes. Yeah, it's such an incredible film. East of Noon is your second feature-length film. I'd love to hear about your inspiration and where this particular story came from.
Okay. When I started thinking about making a second feature, because I so thoroughly enjoyed making the first, I thought that the climate that we are experiencing is quite volatile everywhere around the world, politically, economically, and since the journey of making a film is quite a long journey, normally like when you start thinking about an idea, from the moment you start thinking about it until your film is released, then there's a number of years that elapse. Then I kind of was inspired to think about a story that is not set in a certain time or place, to kind of make sure that at the end of the journey that it would still be relevant. And that this was the starting point. I draw from that on a very long history of storytelling from the Arab region, where it's not necessarily interesting for the listener to know when the story took place, because the story usually starts with Kan ya makan, which means like once upon a time, and it doesn't matter where the place is or where the exact moment is, and we still enjoy these kinds of stories very much. So this is kind of in brief the starting point for East of Noon.
That's beautiful. And I definitely get that out of the film. And yes, as an Egyptian myself, like there's such a certain visual language of Egypt and Cairo that you capture so well in this film, through the usage of khamia fabric, the backgrounds of stacked chairs, the scenes in Galela's shop with the cabinets. How does iconography play a role in this story and create a sense or lack thereof of time?
Okay. I started out as a street photographer when I was back when I was still 18, so that's more than 30 years ago. And I enjoy being in the streets and enjoy kind of being around people and observing life in the city. And it's a city that's constantly changing, um, which is not something that it has in common with many other cities, but the face of this city is constantly changing. And I've been always been preoccupied with how this visual sphere influences people, but how its disappearance and the changes that it undergoes also affect their psychology. And from very early on, already back in 2007, I started out a project called about the iconography of the city, trying to kind of isolate certain items that I saw to be very particular to this place, but that I also saw to be under threat. Um, and then I think from that moment on, I started playing with these kinds of icons to kind of see if they could be used outside their context to generate a variety of different meanings. And I guess the Jaime fabric that you mentioned is one of those very interesting items, because it could be used for happiness and sorrow, for weddings and funerals. And it was initially handmade, and now it's printed on polyester. It's kind of, and it's a mix of pharaonic and Arabic motifs that live together side by side. It's kind of a top item somehow in that case. Um, Having all these icons live together in the film without the reference to their origin is a bit like a microcosm of how you experience Cairo. because it's really a big mix that is kind of unhinged. It's an unhinged big mix.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Definitely that comes through your street photography influence and things. It's so beautiful. And Khamia is such a bright, like vibrant fabric, but even in the film, it still comes out so vibrantly. And yeah, the majority of this film was shot on 16 millimeter film and presented in black and white. And to me, that's such a perfect choice for Abdo and Nona's tale and this whole story. What does shooting on film mean to you? And why did you make that choice?
Okay. As I mentioned, I started out as a street photographer back in the analog days, and I used to work in a photo lab and actually also teach photo lab. But then when I started making a video, initially for art purposes, and then after that for film, it was kind of the process of making films using analog material had already stopped in Egypt. But I kind of always dreamed of this possibility. But then as you would have it when you have a project, the project has to kind of dictate what it needs. And it so happened that this project, for me, the answer to its timelessness, or this possibility for the viewer to imagine that they don't know that it's in 2024 or 23, was to use film. Because it kind of dissociates you from reality, and associates you with the reality of film, so you kind of black and white film comes from the world of film now, and as such it does not subscribe to the notions of the real world that we live in. And it being black and white also was very important for me to make this distinction between the reality of the film and the imagination of the characters. And I won't say more because then I will leave it up to the viewers to kind of see what also happens in this film.
Yes, yes, I love that. Um, yes, being in Egypt and the analog, it's really not a thing anymore. I was reading a different interview that you did, that was kind of telling this tale of how you ended up finishing the film in Egypt. I'd love to hear about that a little bit. I know you kind of like got this whole processing studio kind of going again, right?
Yeah. I mean, initially we thought that we would process abroad, and we got a very good offer in the Netherlands. But then I guess it, as Hala, wearing the hat of a producer, realized that it is going to be virtually impossible to export the film once shot. Um, just because it's been, I don't know, 2013 was the last time the film was shot, analog film was shot in Egypt. And as such, this constant back and forth in the airport with analog had stopped,
Mm.
um, which, and given the whole security situation, it would have been quite contentious to kind of expect that the films could travel outside Egypt without being inspected. Because as I said, that there is no know-how of what film is anymore.
Mm.
Um, and so I started getting very nervous, thinking that this was too much of a risk, especially since we would have to send the films out more than once a week, every 2 days.
Wow.
So that would mean not 9 times. Um, and that you would not discover if your films were tampered with, except after the end of the developing process, possibly scanning process, depends on how bad it's been exposed. So then all of a sudden I kind of, stopped and thought like, we can't do this. This is too crazy. And at that moment, my partner in the production and also the DOP kind of came up with the idea that maybe we could revive the lab that's been closed in Egypt for more than 10 years. And that's his, I would say, his big achievement, because we did manage to bring back people from retirement. We did manage to find chemicals in other industries from, and kind of appropriate them. there's no access to any spare parts because the machines are very old. We had to change the water supply and the electricity supply. And the best thing is that this lab still functions today. And there are young people who are benefiting from it. And they, when we meet them, they say that we kind of brought it back and that it's kind of a good deed, like in Islam, we say like it's a good deed in the sense that it's a sadaqa jariyah, which means that you kind of, it's like a well, and then everyone can drink from the well now.
Oh, that's beautiful. Revival, you're bringing it back, and it
Yeah.
it needs that. I love
Yeah.
it. It's so
Yes.
beautiful.
Great.
You've talked, about your street photography and things. And I know you had ex successful visual arts practice and career, and then you kind of made this switch over to filmmaking. How does your visual arts past influence your approach, and how was that transition for you?
Um, when I decided to make the switch, it was after quite a number of years as a visual artist, and in my mind, it came as a choice that I made to reach out to more people.
Mm.
I would not be present with you here with my film had I continued to be a visual artist. I feel that film is the most democratic means of art making, and it has the longest life without mediation. And I felt that, especially in the region, this is very needed because art consumption is very limited to very limited sectors of society. Um, so I kind of embraced this desire to enlarge my public, um, and because that was the reason, it then there was no question at any point that I would stop making films or start making films as a different person than the person that I am. So basically, I'm going to make film as a visual artist, and I feel that the medium of film is so saturated. Because it's at the age of being saturated, and as a result, it deserves to be questioned, and it deserves to be reinvigorated and adopt different forms. And there is room, there is room to kind of bring something else to filmmaking, and this is what I attempt to do.
Beautiful. I love it. And it's very prevalent, visual throughout your films. Yes. There's also just this beautiful message that, the youth will prevail and make the world brighter, no matter the circumstance, no matter the amount of shauqis or authoritarian forces in the world. To me, Abdu's passion for music was kind of this thread that really brought it forward. Is there a connection between resistance and creation that is being conveyed?
Absolutely.
Yeah, of course.
What's the word? Let's say it's the gift of wanting to express. I mean, I believe it's you are gifted by this desire to want to express yourself, and it's a desire that you cannot stop. um, and and as long as this there continues to be people who are gifted this desire, there will always be a vision for a better world.
Mhm. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us, Hala, all the way from Cairo. And I'm so grateful to you for making this gorgeous and really timeless film. So thank you.
Thank you for having the film, and I hope you enjoy it. Have
Thank
a
you.
good evening.
Yes, bye.